Imagine a troop created to protect the most powerful man in the world. Soldiers chosen one by one through grueling training and clad in gleaming armor. An army born as a symbol of security. But over time, it learned a dangerous trick, selling the Roman throne to the highest bidder. Instead of protecting power, it began to negotiate it, deciding who would live, who would die, and who would sit on the throne. This is the story of the Praetorian Guard, the army that killed emperors and shaped the destiny of the world's greatest ancient civilization. The expression cohort praetoria emerged in the turbulent Roman Republic when generals needed a loyal personal guard on the battlefield. These troops were not mere soldiers. They were trusted veterans, experienced men chosen for their courage and loyalty. Legendary generals such as Scipio Africanus, who defeated Hannibal, and Julius Caesar, the conqueror of Gaul, kept these units close to their praetorium, the general's headquarters. They served as advisors, messengers, and the commander's last line of defense. Imagine being in the middle of a chaotic battle and knowing that if everything went wrong, only the most loyal warriors would remain around you. That was the essence of the elite guard. But with the end of the civil wars and the rise of Octavian Augustus in 27 BC, Rome changed. The Principate was born, a regime that pretended to be a republic but functioned as a disguised monarchy. A new kind of power required a new kind of guard. Augustus knew he needed protection, but also a force that symbolized stability without appearing threatening to the Roman people. Thus, between 27 and 23 BC, he transformed the former guards of the generals into a permanent institution, the Praetorian Guard, under the command of the Praefectus Praetorius, the Praetorian prefect, a position that would become one of the most feared in the entire empire. At first, to avoid alarming the Senate or the citizens, the Praetorian cohorts were distributed throughout Italy, far from the capital. It was a discreet, almost symbolic presence. However, as Tacitus and Suetonius recount, the role of these soldiers evolved rapidly. From ceremonial guardians, they became instruments of power, always in the shadow of the throne. The Praetorian Guard was not a common legion, but an elite force carefully selected from among Italian citizens, especially from Etruria, Umbria, and Latium, regions that in the eyes of Rome represented the heart of ancient Italy. While the legions on the frontiers were made up of provincials, often newly integrated into the empire, the Praetorians were the elite of Roman citizenry, men raised with the pride and sense of duty of the capital. In the time of Augustus, there were 9 cohorts, each with 500 to 1,000 soldiers, for a total of around 9,000 men. But that number would not remain the same for long. Under the ambitious command of Lucius Aelius Sejanus during the reign of Tiberius, this contingent grew, and, with it, the power of the institution. In the year 23 AD, Sejanus did something bold. He built the Castra Praetoria, a giant fortress within Rome itself. It was a political symbol. For the first time, a permanent armed force was installed in the heart of the city, something unthinkable in Republican times. The message was clear. The emperor now had a private army, and it lived right beside him. Command fell to 2 Praetorian prefects appointed directly by the emperor. It was an honor position, but also an electric chair. Many prefects reached the height of imperial influence, while others ended up executed, victims of intrigue and the instability that came with power so close to the throne.
The privileges of the guard were notorious. They received salaries much higher than those of the legions, served for less time, only 16 years compared to 20 for ordinary troops,
Rome could have
and at the end of their
dozens of
careers,
legions on
they
its
were
borders,
rewarded with
but
generous
only one
gold
stood
prizes,
just a few
known as
steps
the
from
Primum.
the Palatine Hill.
This
where the
combination
emperor
of
slept.
prestige,
And
wealth,
being
and
so close to
proximity
power is always
turned
a
the
temptation.
Praetorians into a separate
Over time,
caste,
the guard
respected
ceased to be
and
merely
feared.
a symbol of protection.
In ceremonies,
and
they
became a
paraded
key
in
player
ornate
in
armor,
Roman
polished
politics.
shields,
Their
and
loyalty,
shining
or
plumes,
lack thereof,
the living
could
image of
decide
imperial
the fate
authority.
of an empire.
But the true
No
strength
emperor,
of the guard
no
lay
matter
not
how
only in the
beloved
shine
or
of their
powerful,
armor,
could
but in their
remain on the
location,
throne without the
political
support of these
center
men.
of the world.
From the reign of Tiberius, that relationship became clearer and far more dangerous. The emperor, realizing that loyalty came at a price, instituted the donativum, special payments in gold granted to the guard on important occasions, such as the ascension of a new ruler, anniversaries, or military victories. In practice, it was an institutionalized bribe. The throne was sustained not only by authority, but also by gold, and the guard quickly learned that whoever controlled the donativum controlled Rome. The Praetorian Guard performed multiple functions. They were the emperor's personal guard, accompanying him in ceremonies, travels, and campaigns. Within the city, they acted as an elite police force, suppressing riots, protecting the Senate, and maintaining order. They also served as imperial messengers, secret agents, and, when necessary, executioners of political orders. Their influence reached all levels of administration, and in moments of succession crisis, they became the ultimate arbiters of power. During the turbulent first century after Christ, their dominance was undeniable. It was thanks to them that Claudius was proclaimed emperor after the death of Caligula. They supported Nero, accepted Galba, and helped Otho. With every change of government, the guard stood as a silent, armed judge. What had begun as a protective force had become a true maker of kings. An emperor could have the loyalty of the Senate, the love of the people, and the victories of the army, but if he lost the Praetorian Guard, he was doomed. Under Augustus, however, the Guard lived through its most disciplined and perhaps most loyal period. The first emperor knew that his power was fragile, born from the bloody end of the Republic, sustained more by personal prestige and his image as the restorer of peace than by written law. That is why he never underestimated the importance of a reliable force. The Guard was his shield, but also a symbol, an army that served not the state, but the prince, the first among citizens. Augustus, however, was a master of subtlety. He avoided any appearance of tyranny. Unlike his successors, he kept the cohorts dispersed in various cities throughout Italy, ensuring that Rome would not appear militarized. The Praetorians appeared in public only during ceremonies or official occasions, wearing impeccable armor and conveying a sense of order and dignity, not threat. It was a delicate balance between power and the appearance of moderation. Command of the Guard remained in the hands of prefects, positions of extreme trust, indirectly supervised by figures close to the emperor, such as Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa and Gaius Maecenas. These men, more advisors than warriors, helped maintain discipline and focus within the ranks. Augustus rewarded his soldiers well, granting generous pay and prizes after service, creating a bond of pragmatic loyalty, a loyalty bought but firm as long as the benefits continued. When Augustus died in the year 14 AD, the Praetorian Guard played a decisive role.
While the legions on the frontiers demanded better conditions, the Praetorians remained steadfast in Rome, ensuring a peaceful transition of power to Tiberius. There, the silent pact between throne and guard was sealed. The emperor supported his protectors, and they, in turn, supported the empire. Over the decades, the loyalty of the Praetorian Guard began to crack. Rome would soon witness the darkest side of its protectors,
until
amid
the chaos,
turned
the Praetorians
executioners.
found Claudius
The first emperor
hiding
to
behind a
feel this
curtain.
change was Caligula.
They greeted him
young,
as the new
eccentric,
emperor,
and
thus
tyrannical.
for the first
He
time,
lost the
they
respect of
decided
everyone,
who would occupy
even
the
his
throne.
guards.
A coup
In the year
d'état
41
within
AD,
the palace itself.
in one of the most shocking
Decades
episodes
later,
in imperial
history would repeat
the
itself.
tribune Cassius
68
Chaerea
AD,
and other members
Emperor
of the guard
Galba,
assassinated
austere and
him
unpopular,
inside the palace.
promised rewards to the guards but failed to pay them. As a result, he was betrayed and murdered by the very men who were supposed to protect him. Otho, his successor, understood the game and bought their loyalty, but only for a while. By 193 AD, Emperor Pertinax, known for trying to restore discipline and cut costs, paid with his life. His mistake was to deny privileges to the guard. In a fit of rage, the Praetorians stormed the palace and killed him. But the worst was yet to come. Immediately after the assassination, the Praetorians committed the most shameful act in Roman history, the so-called auction of the empire. Gathered in the Castra Praetoria, they announced that they would sell the throne to the highest bidder. The winner was Didius Julianus, who promised 25,000 sestertians per soldier, a colossal sum. Rome, the capital of the world, had been literally sold for gold. From then on, there was no doubt. The Praetorian Guard was no longer the shield of the empire, but a mercenary force. Its motto was no longer "Fides et honor," faith and honor, but gold and power. Then a new name appeared, Septimius Severus, a respected general who marched on Rome at the head of his troops. He defeated Julianus and severely punished those responsible for the auction. He dissolved the old guard, expelled the Praetorians, and replaced them with loyal legionnaires, veterans from the frontiers. Even so, the damage was done. The idea that power could be bought would never disappear. Over time, the empire entered a cycle of bribery, betrayal, and murder. Among all the men who commanded the Praetorian Guard, none symbolized the danger of ambition more than Lucius Aelius Sejanus, appointed Praetorian prefect by Tiberius. Sejanus went far beyond his military duties. He built an empire within the empire. Cunning, charismatic, and ruthless, he transformed the guard into a political weapon, placing every cohort, every soldier, and every sword under his direct command. In 23 AD, he made his boldest move. He convinced Tiberius to centralize all Praetorian units within Rome itself in the monumental Castra Praetoria. Until then, the cohorts had been scattered to avoid concentrating military power in the capital. Sejanus changed that, and in a single act gathered a formidable army in the heart of the empire. From there, he wielded authority greater than that of the Senate itself. While Tiberius withdrew from public life and isolated himself on the island of Capri, Sejanus took control of government. He decided who would be promoted, who would be executed, and who would have access to the emperor. Under the pretext of protecting the prince,
He persecuted rivals, eliminated opponents, and built a network of alliances within the Roman elite. His ultimate goal was clear: to marry Livia Drusilla, Tiberius's daughter-in-law, and draw closer to the imperial succession. For nearly a decade, Sejanus was the true master of Rome. Senators flattered him, generals feared him, and the people saw him as the emperor's shadow. But the fate of those who fly too close to power in Rome is always the same: a fall. In 31 AD, a letter sent by Tiberius to the Senate exposed Sejanus's conspiracy. The reaction was immediate. Sejanus was arrested, tried, and executed that same day. His statues were torn down, his name erased, the dreaded damnatio memoriale. The end of the Praetorian Guard was as dramatic as its history. After nearly 3 centuries of deciding the fates of emperors, what was once a symbol of imperial
During the civil
authority
wars that marked the beginning of his reign, Constantine faced
The 4th century
Maxentius,
brought
another
a new kind
claimant
of
to the
empire,
throne.
more
The
centralized,
Praetorians,
more
loyal
Christian,
to the old
and
order,
less tolerant
sided
of
with
armed
Maxentius
power
and
within the
defended
capital.
Rome with
And
fanatic
the man
zeal.
who finally
But in
decreed the Guard's
312
end
AD,
was none other
everything
than
was decided
Constantine,
on the banks
the
of the
ruler who
Tiber
would forever
at the famous
change the
battle
face
of the
of Rome.
Milvian Bridge, under the sign of the Christian cross and the promise of victory in hoc signo vinces. With this sign you will conquer. Constantine crushed the enemy army. Maxentius drowned in the river, and the Old Guard, his main base of support, was defeated with him. Constantine did not hesitate. He entered Rome in triumph and immediately ordered the dissolution of the Castra Praetoria, the fortress that for centuries had symbolized the power of the guardians of the throne. It was demolished stone by stone. Many Praetorians were sent to distant frontiers where they lost their prestige and influence. The military heart of Rome was torn out, and with it disappeared one of the most feared and controversial institutions in imperial history. Thus ended the saga of the Praetorian Guard. Born as protectors, corrupted as mercenaries, and extinguished as enemies of the new world that was rising. Even so, the Guard left a lasting mark on military organization, its elite structure, its proximity to the ruler, and its symbolic function inspired later institutions of personal protection. In the Byzantine Empire, the Varangian Guard would emerge.